Buenas noches and welcome to the District 90 Candidates Forum. My name is Rudy Flores, your moderator for the evening, or in simpler terms, I'm the timekeeper. The announcement by State Representative Doyle Willis that he will not seek re-election has opened the doors of opportunity to a number of candidates interested in the seat. District 90 covers the two largest Hispanic populated areas of Fort Worth, those being the north and south sides of the city. Given that fact, the Hispanic Concerned Citizens Group has invited the District 90 candidates to come and visit us, asking our support with their knowledge of and plans for the community. Ladies and gentlemen, the guests of honor tonight are, and I begin with Our Lady, Roy Laverne Brooks, Mr. Francisco Hernandez, Mr. Lee Saldivar, Mr. Lon Burnham, Mr. Steve Deleon, and Mr. Ronald Cepeda. We have only a short time, so the rules must be strictly followed. Each candidate will begin with a 2-minute introduction, explaining his or her background and why he or she is running for office. That will be followed by a series of 3 questions that have been generated by the candidates' responses to a questionnaire mailed to each of them a few weeks ago. Each answer will be no more than 3 minutes. If time permits, the candidates will then take questions from you, our audience, and answers will be limited to 1 minute. The evening will end with a 1-minute closing statement by each of our candidates. Candidates, please remember the time limits must be followed. You will be given a countdown of 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and 0, and I'm sorry, but if y'all are going on when the 0 hits, I must stand up and cut you off, even if it's in mid-sentence. Please do not be offended, but we must do this for the sake of time. Finally, the rules and regulations are out of the way, and it's time to hear from our honored guests. Mr. Ron Cepeda, we begin with you and the candidate introductions.
Hi, my name is Ronald Cepeda, and as I understand it, the first question is to tell you who I am. I was born here in Fort Worth, Texas, just like lots of folks. And that's really who I am. I'm like a lot of people. I went to public schools here. I was in the Boy Scouts. Had a wonderful family life when I was growing up. I couldn't ask for a better time when I was a kid. And like a lot of other Texans from District 90, including my uncles and other relatives, after World War I and World War II, after they got their discharge, I came back home to District 92. I'm glad that I have 2 children who are now registered voters. I'm glad I'm past the stage of being the father of 2 teenagers, because I guarantee you that's more than I can handle. So I'm just a Fort Worth guy. I like to say that I am a daddy and an uncle and a veteran too. Now I'll turn you over to your next candidate.
Good evening. My name is Steve Deleon. I'm an engineer serving in an engineering capacity with budgeting and organizational responsibilities for the Lockheed Corporation. I am married, have 4 daughters, and 2 of them, by the way, are attending local universities, and all of them attended public schools here in Fort Worth. I have resided in Fort Worth, Texas for the last 27 years. I have a bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering from the University of Texas at Austin, and I have advanced studies in engineering management from several universities. This is not the first time I run for public office. In 1986, I ran for county judge of Tarrant County, gathering over 30% of the vote. My accomplishments in the community have been several. I'll just highlight the more salient points that I have accomplished in this community. I established the first alternative high school in Fort Worth, Texas, later known as Metro. You know it as Metro High School. For those students who needed introduction back into the school system and those who had discipline problems. I established machine shop training and electronic training for youth that were later channeled into industry. This is what I believe that we need now in District 90. I established the first umbrella of Hispanic organizations that it was called MACE, Mexican American College Education Fund, and raised thousands upon thousands of dollars for deserving students as scholarships. I established the Adopt a School program, as you know it now, in Fort Worth, Texas, and that was on a 3-year assignment from the General Dynamics Corporation. I have organized a lot of toy drives for Hispanics area schools for the last 18 years. The issues in District 90 are crime and a criminal element, how we deal with it, education, health care, and of course the economy. Thank you for your time.
My name is Lon Burnham. I know most of you and have met with you on one occasion or another, one community issue or campaign or another. The things that you may not know about me that I want you to know is I'm a proud husband. My wife was featured in this morning's Star Telegram, the front page of the local section, not the metro section, but the lifestyle section. She's the author of a book that is just coming out this week called Fort Worth Legendary Landmarks. I was raised here. My father's retired from General Dynamics, and my mother's a retired teacher from the school system. Carol and I met in an undergraduate class at UT Austin, where we were both interested in historic structures and interested in preserving older communities and neighborhoods. She influenced me to go to graduate school in city and regional planning, and I have worked in that area for over 20 years now. We've lived on 6th Avenue since we were married in 1979. We've been active in the Fairmont Neighborhood Association. One or the other of us has been on the Southside Area Ministries Board for most of the time that Sam has been in existence. Most of you know me because of my electoral work. In the 70s, I worked for State Representative Chris Miller from Fort Worth. I worked for her for 5 years, both in the district office here and in Austin. That period informed my conscience about what one can do with this office, and I would like to see that type of activity again. I look forward to representing the district that has the highest number of Hispanic people in the county. I look forward to working with you in that capacity. Thank you.
My name is Luis Aldivar. I came to Fort Worth in 1963. I have a wife named Janie. I have 2 kids. One of them is in Pasco. The other one's 26. I was in the Navy during the Vietnam era, so we went ahead and paid our dues. I was a union representative for a retail, wholesale, and department store union, and that's when the Safeways were available. And I'm the chairman of the Rosemont Voters League. I was also the chairman of the Community Development Council for 4 years of a 6-year term, which we dealt with a lot of money and distributed to the different neighborhoods and in housing, in public services. And I feel like we did a real good job as far as getting money in the district that we're talking about today, District 90. I was also at one time the county chairman of the Las Unidas Party, and I'm a member of the Mexican American Democrats, and I've been a precinct chairman in my neighborhood. I think I'm going on 8 years now, and I do see what the problems are. I do work with the Citizens on Patrol, and I do believe in Kids Code Blue, after-school tutoring, and those are the kind of things that are needed in the neighborhood. And the most emphasis that we need to put in our neighborhood is that we need to take care of the kids in both elementary and middle school, and that's what I'm looking at. Thank you.
May I begin? My name is Francisco Hernandez Jr. I am somewhat of a new face to politics, but I think that's good. I'm recently engaged also. I was born in the North Side. I am a North Sider by birth. I grew up in Mexico until I was 13. Spanish was my first language. I learned English when we moved back to Fort Worth at the age of 13 and attended Daggett Middle School, Pasco High School, TCU, and attended law school in Washington, D.C. As I said, English is my second language. I went to Daggett, and I'm concerned that all my friends that I went to Daggett ended up either in the penitentiary, pregnant, dropped out, or are homeless. The reason for my success out of that school are my parents. I'm concerned that we've lost that family structure, particularly in the district. I went to law school, and I am a product of an effective affirmative action program. Together with that affirmative action program, I had an obligation. I made a promise that I would one day give back to the community. This is the way I've chosen to give back to the community. I think I'm qualified. I'm committed to the community. At 27, I was the youngest person to be named Fort Worth Man of the Year for my professional and community activity achievements. I have years of actual hands-on legislative experience, and I will admit to you right now, I did work for the big bad telephone company. But I have no allegiance to the telephone company. It is important that you understand that I care about the three issues that affect this community: crime prevention, where my friends ended up, economic development, and equal education for our children. And I look forward to working with our Representative Glenn Lewis, who was named Freshman of the Year at the state legislature. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Roy Laverne Brooks, and as I look out into the crowd, all of you are familiar faces. I'm glad to be with you this afternoon. I'm no stranger to none of you. I started out as a young Democrat. I was born and raised in the Fort Worth community. I am a product of the Como community, and I have worked hard for the Democratic Party. I think my record speaks clearly for itself, and I think I can stand here before you and say that I will do a great job in Austin if you see fit for me to go there. Now, as I look around the room and we read our newspapers and we see all the things that constantly confront us, crime and juvenile crime is one of the main things that I think that we need to gear up and look at as voters, citizens, and constituents of District 90. If you don't have any vision, you don't have anywhere to go. So I run simply because I've always had a vision, and I think my track record speaks for that. Again, I won't take up a lot of your time. It's good to see each and every one of you tonight, and thank you so much for inviting us and putting this forum together.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And now on to round two of our evening. Each of you should have or have access to a list of questions that were asked the candidates several weeks ago. They responded to those. We will be calling out the number of the question according to the candidate. We shall begin with Mr. Ronald Cepeda. Mr. Cepeda, your question in response to question number 8, in reference to the impact that immigration has on education and social programs in this district. It's a two-part question, Mr. Cepeda. Would you identify or clarify your belief that a streamlined entry process and a user fee-based program should be employed? Also, if Congress is advocating a similar position, i.e., that only financially able persons be allowed to sponsor someone into the United States, do you believe this idea could be discriminatory?
Two questions. I'll answer your second question first. Yes, I believe if it's going to be based primarily or exclusively or solely on a financial ability, that yes, that could end up being very discriminatory. We've seen that in our own lives. All of us have seen that. Next, let me explain the first part of your question about what am I talking about when I say a smoother or more streamlined entry process and some type of a user fee system. When we take our children to school here in Fort Worth, we have to take birth certificates, identification. We have to take some kind of IDs that show where we actually live to ensure that we live in this school district and that we're in this neighborhood that we say we want to go to school in. So there is a way, there is a system already in place by which we identify people just to come into our schools. I think that it is reasonable and logical that somebody wants to come into our country, we should also require the very same things. Identify who this person is and be able to issue some kind of ID to them, just as they issue an ID at school. You come to the neighborhood school, you prove who you are, you get a school ID, it's got the school logo on there, or the mascot or something, it's got your picture on it, your name, and it may even say what your teacher's homeroom number is and name. It's the same way with people coming into this country. There are programs already in place for agricultural workers that come into this country to work specifically in certain areas of agriculture. We need to be able to continue to identify those people. It would be effective. Now, when you're talking about user fees, who's going to pay for it? How would it be paid for? I think that's something that might be able to be handled on a payroll deduction. A person comes to us from Mexico, we'll say Mexico. They come, they fill out the papers, everything gets properly done. They're coming here to work for an agricultural program. They're going to be paid. A payroll deduction could be taken out, just like FICA is taken out, withholding tax is taken out, Medicare is taken out, to pay the U.S. government for that record keeping. So I don't want it to be discriminatory. I want it to be fair. But I also want to be sure that we keep it real clear who is in our country, just like we keep track of who's in our schools.
Thank you very much. Mr. Deleon, in response to question number 7, in reference to the Hispanic school dropout rate, you plan to reintroduce the hotline. Explain this program. Why did it fail, and how would you ensure its success?
In 1986, as part of the Adopt a School program, I initiated the homework hotline. Let me explain the homework hotline for you. Basically, the homework hotline is the facilities where we keep all the books that are in the district, that are in the school district. A child will call the homework hotline. We will have paid teachers at that homework hotline. They will be able to ask the question, and they will refer to the book, and this way we can help the individuals. One of the problems that we're seeing here in District 90, and not only in District 90, but all over the state of Texas, is that we have kids coming in from single parents. And sometimes a single parent has to work and comes tired from work and providing for her family. She doesn't have time sometimes to concentrate on the child. So we got to create something like the homework hotline, because it will work for the benefit of the students. Now, the question was, the homework hotline failed. The homework hotline did not fail, by the way. What happened is that we did not have enough funding from industry. By the way, this was an industry initiative. I was given directions by the president of General Dynamics at the time, because it was affecting our workloads and our workforce, to initiate a homework hotline. And we funded, and we ran out of funds, and then all of a sudden, there was no other companies that picked it up. I think it's about the time that we spend that lot of money that all of us spend every weekend into the homework hotline and into education. Thank you.
Mr. Burnham, in response to your question number 10, in reference to drugs and violence, you state that the juvenile legislation passed in the last session may be helpful, but it is treating the symptom and not the problem. The question, sir, since juveniles do not reach age 17 and acquire adulthood and an addiction, would you agree that more resources should be used for prison beds and addiction centers for juveniles? And how do you propose to address this?
I'm more inclined to support the idea of expanded services for the drug addicted rather than prisons for juveniles. The transition that we're looking at is we're simply incarcerating more and more people from the inner city. Most of these people are either African American or Hispanic. And where I think I wanted to go with that issue and that question is talking about exactly what Mr. Deleon was talking about, and that is resources in the schools. The kids are getting in trouble at the middle school level, and that's where not enough resources are going. I think it's a shame that there was a lot of progress made under Governor Richards, who had our own experiences in rehab programs, that we have already cut back on that. Rehab programs are very important to reintegrating people in the community, and quite frankly, we are incarcerating too many young people at this point.
Mr. Saldivar, in response to your question number 6, in reference to health care for all, how would you propose that unemployed people pay for insurance premiums?
Okay, I'm gonna answer that by experience. And when we're working at a job, there's usually an insurance there, and you're paying half, 50%, and then the company pays 50%. So what happens is when you leave that job, then the insurance is terminated. But what I would suggest, and what it can be done, and a lot of us didn't know that it could be done, is that when you leave a place of business, your job, your insurance you can carry your insurance with you, and you can continue paying it, and then continue paying it at a lower premium. And those are the kind of things that we were not aware of. I wasn't aware of, and a lot of the people that worked for me were not aware that they could do that. So what I would like to do is to continue the group, the HMO, et cetera, those type of insurance that are, when you get those insurance, they do it in a way where if you had to go get a prescription, they pay about 45% and you pay 10%, and it makes it a lot easier on the people to keep their insurance going whenever they go from job to job. And then it goes as long as until you get the other job, and then once you pick up on the other job, then you stay with that insurance you got, or you can pick up on the insurance that you have at the new job. And this is something that can be done now, and it is in Congress right now to make it more effective, where a lot of people, they are in the older ages, where when they lose their insurance, and even if they go to another job, they cannot pick up an insurance, or if they got hurt within the time that they were with a particular insurance, they get canceled. And what it's in Washington right now is to make it where you don't lose your seniority, and you don't have to be canceled. They have to pick up, whether you change insurance or not, they have to pick up where you left off, and it wouldn't cost you any more money.
Mr. Hernandez, in response to question number 7, in regard to the Hispanic dropout rate, would you give an example of the expanded mentor program and specify other community incentives? Also, would this include physical facilities to ensure a level playing field?
Well, that's an issue I'm very close to. First of all, I was mentored by a Catholic priest, first of all, and by some attorneys, so I'm very close to that. I think, first of all, we have to take care of ourselves first. My biggest harping point is that I have to mentor my nephew first. I have to lead by example, show him the way it's done, show him how to succeed. Second, as far as a community level aspect, I'm participating in the job shadow program with the New Lives program at Pasco High School. It used to be from Pasco High School, where students come and job shadow you one day a month or as often as necessary. For example, I have a young girl who was in gangs at 16, became pregnant. She's now 18 and doing very well at the New Lives program. She's now going to court with me on Wednesdays and learning about the legal process, and she wants to one day become a lawyer. Now, that's important. Now, difficult at the state level, but we do have at the state level, we can encourage and mandate funding for special schools where we keep for metro schools, for example, in Fort Worth, where we keep all our problem kids and just forget about them. We stuff them away in a closet, but we don't have to see them and we don't have to deal with them and we don't have to be afraid of them, and we just stick them in that room and we don't do anything for them. We have to encourage and give the funding for people to come in and mentor these kids and give them a vision, something that they can go to. I had a problem kid that told me that the thing he looked forward to is one day having an AC job. And then I asked him, what's an AC job? And they all laughed at me. He's like, well, you're certainly out of touch. And I felt out of touch. He said, that's a job where I can be in an air-conditioned job. That is the biggest thing that kid had to look forward to at Metro school. And just like I was told in middle school that